What you doing? Did you break it? Alright, I'm gonna have you try to get this on him, right? So this goes under the chin like this. This strap will go behind the ears, and just clip like that, and you'll see there's a little tab that slides up that locks it. Big old scaredy cat. So sometimes what I usually recommend is don't make it so optional, right? Meaning you're kind of almost like waiting for him to like slow down so you can put it on him. You almost got to just kind of get him situated and just pop that thing right on him. And he'll try to fight it a little bit, but if you're persistent about that, you should be able to get that right on over his face. You're almost there.
Yeah, I can tell he's trying to get another.
Yep. And that's a lot of it is, you know, the persistence on our end of like, we know he's going to fight this, right? Just kind of showing him that we're not going to let him win with it. And the more he starts to realize that you're going to gain control of these situations, this is a big part of, as you'll see once he goes home, starting to get him kind of trusting you a little bit more with this kind of stuff and getting him realizing that he's not so in control over stuff.
That's good.
I think so. I'm going to check that here in a second. Why don't you just hang on to his leash, and then I'm going to kind of test him here real quick while you're here. I want to kind of come in and I'm going to check that, and I want to see how agitated he gets by it. So.
It's okay.
So you see how tensed up he gets, obviously. That's a lot of this problem. He's just not used to people coming into his space.
Yeah.
Yeah, this looks like it's probably...
I can tighten it some more.
No, I think it should be good. There you go, bud. Quit being a drama queen, dude. Why you gotta be such a drama queen? So while I got you here, so why don't you kind of, you know, I know we talked a little bit over the phone initially when you booked and stuff. Recap some of like the major issues you're having at home with him.
So sometimes, so it was my fault. So when he was younger,
Yeah.
I put a shock collar on him. My grandma, she said her friend,
Yep.
she had a shock collar on her dog. And I didn't know how to use it. I wasn't trained on using it. I used
Sure.
it the wrong way. That's why he's like this, like with collars and leashes and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
He don't really,
Sure.
He snaps when you snap it.
Yeah.
He don't really like that. Sometimes when he gets put in the cage, he'll growl and kind of
Yeah.
show his teeth. But I'm not scared of him. But
Yeah.
my mom,
Sure.
she's the one. She's not scared of him, but she don't like when he does
Yeah.
that. Like, so she wants that to be cleaned up. Just like his behavior, like just he's around the house. He chills, but sometimes he goes grab my mom's socks and he'll run.
Yeah.
I have to put him up. I have to put him up basically like anybody comes over,
Yeah.
my friends and stuff like that. Which I like when he does that, but not.
No, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, not to like my friends and stuff like that, but like to strangers.
Sure.
If somebody can come in the house, I would definitely be able to protect the house.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if he will. I know he barks.
Yeah.
He got an aggressive bark, so.
Well, he's a, you know, just from what we saw the first time, he's a huge scaredy cat. I mean, that's where all this, I mean, you see, again, as soon as I have the leash, right, he's trying to get away from me. You know, the snapping and stuff like that isn't like, oh, I'm trying to kill you. It's get away from me. You know what I mean? He's super, super scared, right? And that could be because of partially training things you may have tried, but a lot of times we find it's more temperamental than anything. It's kind of wired into them, you know, that they're nervous dogs. Now, the positive is a lot of times with nervous dogs like him, once you start giving them direction and teaching them to work through this kind of stuff and focus on us instead of the triggers, a lot of times we find them get significantly better with things just through that. And they show more of their true self, which is just they're a little nervous. You know, maybe they stay away from the people instead of outwardly aggressing and reacting and stuff like that, right?
I just want to be able to take him out to like the park and stuff.
Sure.
With him,
Yeah.
things like that, throw the ball to him.
Yeah.
See, now I can't, he doesn't really listen.
Yeah.
Because he's not obedient.
Yep, and that's a part of it, you know, is working them through these types of things is Getting that communication and training established so that we could start to direct him through this stuff a little bit better,
What all are you guys going to do?
Yeah, so our standard training program is on and off leash obedience training. So we'll be working all of the standard commands and stuff. Obviously, we want to make sure that, we want to make sure, obviously, that he's going to be listening to all of those things that we need him to. So recalls, bed stays, down stays, things like that, leash walking. Past that, a lot of our focus is going to be on the socialization side of things, right? That's his big concern here right now, is this issue towards people, right? So I want to really start getting him more comfortable with interactions and stuff like that. So we'll be focusing on quite a bit of those things.
Because I don't think, you think he's aggressive?
Well, I mean, everybody has a little bit different of a definition of aggression, obviously. When I look at aggression, typically speaking, I describe it as like intent to do harm. Like he really just outwardly wants to like hurt people, which I don't necessarily think is the case, right? I think he's very, very scared, and I think that he acts aggressively to make people get out of his space.
Yeah.
The problem is there's quite a bit of intensity behind it. You know what I mean? So obviously, as you can see, this stuff can become very dangerous for sure.
I just don't fight anybody.
Yeah. No, I understand.
I want to train.
Well, yeah. Quit being a butthead, dude.
Usually when people scared of him, he'll just bark.
Yep. Well, nobody pushes the envelope, obviously. When he's barking like he was when he came in, nobody's going to be going up and petting him or anything like that by any means, right? Where you see right now, he probably would have rather just got away from me and he went hid by you or something like that. But because I'm not allowing him to do that, he's escalating, right? Because he's learned that barking, growling makes people go away. So wait a minute, barking, growling isn't working right now. So now I need to resort to biting, right? I need to resort to doing other things. Do you think these are human beef sticks? I bet they are.
You should try one.
Come. Come. Yeah. Yes and no. I mean, if I have the ability to, usually, good. Especially with the leash pressure stuff. Come. I try to get as much of this stuff out of the way right off the rip, A lot of these steps, obviously we need to teach our sits. We need, you can do it in the room first, obviously, but as soon as I have that established, I want to try to take those things and make it as real world as possible. sometimes like our extent of training the dog can stay too contained to like just in a room, you know what I mean, or in a session or something like that. And we never start shaping the pictures of what we're ultimately going to need, which is, we're coming into a new place, you know what I mean? Like we're going through doorways, we're getting our dog out of the crates, we're getting the dog leash and collared up, you know what I mean? Like just all the real life things that you would need to do with your dog. You need to start working to shape all of those things as best as you can. Come. Come. We're almost kind of flooding him with the real world right now and using the training to get his attention off of those things to help expedite working him through some of the actual problems he has, which is in the real world while stuff is going on, he gets himself too worked up. He's too scared of all of it. Come. So right now, he's around all these things he's scared of, new people, new dogs, new place, but we're giving him direction through it, and we're teaching him, hey, don't worry about these things, focus on what I'm asking you to do right now, right? Come. And again, the touch stuff is really his problem, right? Like the training things he does relatively good with, but you see how much he tenses up as soon as I go to interact with him, right? Or mess with collars or anything like that. So this is where we need to spend a lot of that time, is with collaring up, right? So I'll just start off with obviously just flat collar here, you know, and he's got to get used to this. Obviously it's tricky with the nut punch. And this is like I was telling him, right? Like, you know, we could avoid this stuff all day long, but like this is the problem, you know what I mean? Is that he doesn't let us collar him, right? So we could do all the training in the world, right? And we could probably do 3 weeks of training and never run into that problem if we don't need to put those collars on him. But that is the issue. That's what we ultimately need to work through with him. What? Oh. Got your buddy here. Hey.
Look at that.
Hey. What?
He might be a good dog to. Oh, I never told you the story. So.
Oh.
This is about MJ.
Yeah.
I was doing recalls with him down here on these, and Dana came down with the mouse, and for some reason they just been going at it when they pass each other. And he just got real tense and started jumping up on the fence, and I prepped it on my high knee.
Well, what's going on with this one?
So she is 7 months old.
Nice.
She's very intelligent,
Cool.
but a puppy.
Yeah.
And the main things are she bites a lot to play.
Yeah.
She'll outgrow that, but
Her and Jake are very, very aggressive.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Wild players.
She's a digger in the backyard. She digs. Counter surfing. I mean, nothing horrible.
Yeah.
She's gonna be very easily trained.
Cool.
But I just need her to be trained.
Be a little better.
A little bit easier.
Yeah, yeah.
For us, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So her and Jake get along good?
Yeah, they love to play, yeah.
Sweet.
When they play, sometimes it's super aggressive. And wait
Yeah,
for the neighbors to call the ball.
She'll lash on his neck, and I
Yeah.
don't want that to happen, so.
It's more normal than you'd think. You know,
Yeah.
obviously we want to make sure we have like an off switch for it if we need to, but you know, it ain't the end of the world.
I think she'll do really well, so
Yeah.
I'm excited just to kind of get her trained.
Yeah, we'll keep you posted on stuff. We do most of our updating through like Instagram and stuff.
Yeah.
So if you follow on the stories, we try to 4 to 5 days a week, you'll see like a story of her pop up, of something she's working on, things like that. And obviously you know how to get a hold of me if you have any questions or anything and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, she'll do good. A lot of times we get them in young, no major issues and stuff. It's business as usual, you know. Hi, buddy.
I want to hear what happened over Christmas.
Let's hear it.
So we were doing family gathering, big Christmas cookie decorating. My aunt had these really large chocolate balls on a
Yep.
table. He went and got one. He was running away with it. She said, "Drop it." We were all there.
He dropped it.
He dropped it. My aunt went to get it. He went and like it wasn't like we went and got it cleaned and everything.
Couple
It
stitches.
wasn't deep or anything. But
Yeah.
But and then we corrected. Obviously, Tom had the remote at the time. And then we just haven't really known. We've just been continuing our training, David, but we just haven't known what to do.
Yeah.
My aunt is like, she's like, I should have known. I mean, I know better. I should never go for something. And I was like, well, you should not react like that. So she was.
Yes and no, right? So like, here's the thing, right? Like when I hear stories like this, my brain immediately goes to like, okay, let's pinpoint where the mistake started. Let's work through this here, right? Mistake number one, probably shouldn't have even taken him, right? When you get into these like lot of shit going on situations, they're just not good environments for dog training. You know what I mean? And the second I go into an environment where I don't have complete control over what's going on, and or you guys were going there with the intent of trying to have a good time and not needing to like babysit him the whole time, you leave the dog at home. You know what I mean? Like that's what I like I don't feel this burning obligation to take my dog to every single family function forever and ever to the end of time. Now, if I take them there, can I keep them under control? Yes. Are there things we probably could have done to keep them under better control? Like, yeah, probably, right? But nonetheless, probably just wasn't a great situation to take them to in the first place, right? Mistake number two, you said this was like 3 hours into things or so, and you said the majority of the time you were there, you were constantly nagging him over stuff, right? Yeah. If I find myself in a situation where we've talked about this numerous times over these sessions, where I'm constantly nagging over something, I'm doing something wrong, right? Because the point isn't getting across, you know what I mean? And if we're 3 hours in and the point still hasn't gotten across, there's a clarity issue or there's a motivation issue, right? One or the other. And I don't know what sorts of things you were needing to correct for, obviously, but like let's just take the example over what he got himself into trouble over, which was stealing shit off the counter, right? That is one of those things where like if you were constantly nagging him over getting the food off of the counter, you were not being firm enough on him at all or consistent enough about addressing that problem to stop it, right? And because half of the problem is we're going there, we're trying to have a good time, and it's like we look over, shit, the dog's getting into something, right? We're having a good time, shit, the dog's getting into something. You know what I mean? That's kind of how that starts. Third thing here, getting back to the not taking him. This is pertaining to him, but this is pertaining to most dogs. And this is like, I call situations like this is like the reality check, right? This is the, right? Like, hey, let's pay attention to this stuff, right? You have to be so careful when it comes to dogs and kids, right? Because you got lucky that this happened with her as opposed to one of the kids. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So this is why I always say, like, even with my dogs, right? I don't really take my dogs around kids very much, right? Like I got, you know, cousins and stuff like that have young children and stuff like that are over for Christmas sometime and all those types of things. And I don't take my dogs to them, you know? Like I have my one dog, Vera, I trust her 100% to the moon and the back with children. So like I'll let her sometimes around kids, but the others, they just aren't around them enough or consistently enough for me to feel totally confident with them. And I don't feel the need to push it. You know what I mean? It's an unnecessary risk. Continuing to move our way down the line here, right? Then we get into the actual incident, right? Like the guarding situation. My next question would be, why did she need to chase him down and make him drop the thing and then go try to take it? You know what I mean? Like that if my dog has something that they're not supposed to have, that's my job to do that, right? And that's, as much as we don't like it, it's normal for a dog who does not have any sort of association with who the hell is Paige over there? Why would Paige come take, you know what I mean? Like she's never done any training with him before. She's never disciplined him for things before. So in his mind, it's like, she wants to go take something from me? Fuck you. You're not taking that thing, right? There's no relationship. Just because, again, like these are the situations where it's like, you know, this is how this stuff escalates into big problems. And we could immediately, when something like that happens, look at like, oh, it's like the dog's fault, right? Which, yes, we don't want him to act that way, but we have to assume the responsibility in those situations of looking at where did we mess up along the way.
I think we completely
You know what I mean?
set him up to fail.
So,
Like I think we both talked about it.
sure.
It was just not a good situation. And yeah, you know, he went into the living room. He wasn't being watched.
Sure.
And
Supervision, big thing, you know?
and it failed.
Yeah. So that's how I look at that situation, right? Moving forward, how do we prevent it from happening? One, you be very mindful of the situations you take him to. If you're not able to supervise him 100%, he shouldn't go, right? That's just the way it is, right? Like that's our responsibility as owners of dogs, but also owners of power breed dogs, right? Working breed dogs, stuff like that, right? It's just extra important with dogs like that, right? And then obviously in situations where we are able to fully supervise, right, you make sure that you have just better control of the things going on around you, and you like extra double down on just keeping them in check over that stuff.
Yeah. I think for me now, I'm apprehensive to, like, if I drop something in the kitchen and we're cooking, I mean, he's like psychotic in getting it. You gotta
address that, right? So like,
yeah, so I've been trying to, like, I'll drop his kibble when he's in a place, and when he's in a place and I drop the kibble, he does not get off the bed.
Sure.
But if
he's not on it,
he's like
sure.
not in a command,
Yeah.
he's like I dropped a blueberry and he was like nearly knocked me over to death.
Yeah. Well, give me 1 second. We'll run a couple drills real quick. I'll show you what I mean about how exactly you need to start working on that.
Okay.
No. And you could tell how intense he was about going for it initially, right?
Losing it.
Oh yeah. And he got the first couple because he was so fast about it, right? Leave it.
I did teach my other shepherd that command. Leave it. But I don't, I mean, oh my God.
And this is what I mean about like half of the battle with resource like guarding dogs is literally the impulsiveness over it. You know what I mean? Like they're just so impulsive.
So impulsive, it's insane.
Right? And that's what I need to see is him literally just leaving it alone, right? Not in command or anything, literally just leaving it alone, right?
Or it's like, we're never gonna change the impulse, I guess. Is that
Yes and no. Yes and no. He's always gonna be highly motivated for it, but we're changing the impulse. You know what I mean?
Yes, okay.
And initially, sometimes with dogs that are so intense like that, like we are creating avoidance of it, right? If something drops on the ground that isn't yours, literally avoid it. You know what I mean? Because that intensity he throws into trying to get it, it's got to go somewhere, right? So that intensity right now is going to staying away from it,
So
right?
is this behavior
Yeah, he's like, what the hell is going on right now? He's nervous.
like?
Scared, looking for
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't want to get corrected,
protection.
right?
Yeah. And by doing this, we're not going to set him up to associate like other, like confusing that the bed is not what I mean to not be by. Like,
I get what you're
you
saying.
see
Like
what
create
I'm
like a
saying?
superstitious association of since he's
Yeah,
getting corrected
yeah.
near the bed.
Yeah, that
Listen,
kind of
I mean, we could sit here and debate all day long of like, can you create a temporary superstitious association with something? Like, sure, right? If anything, we're creating a superstitious association with the
To
food
that.
right now. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's why he's literally running away from it when I put it near him. He's like,
Right.
whoa, like I want to stay away from that thing. But as he realizes the only criteria is you can't take it, right?
Right.
He'll start to realize, oh, okay, I don't need to dart away from it. It's okay. You know what I mean? It's kind of the temporary fallout of we got to get this under control. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Same deal with the bed, right? Like could hypothetically, since he got corrected pretty firmly for going after this stuff on the bed, could he create a temporary superstitious association with being on the bed? Sure, maybe, but you could fix that
Quickly.
in one session of just working some bed stays again.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
So we would practice this like at home. in
you've
the
got,
kitchen.
you have to, right? Like especially seeing how impulsive he was over this
I'm
stuff,
telling you.
you have to get that under control. That is like the single thing that gets dogs into trouble and again, creates really serious resource guarding issues with dogs is when they're so impulsive over something drops on the ground and their brain immediately goes to, I have to have
Yes.
that thing. You know what I mean?
It's insane the way he goes.
Yeah. So we're just creating this, again, like unless it's yours, you can't have it, right? That's it. And again, like you said, he'll hold it perfectly fine. We've worked this drill plenty of times while he's in command, but when he's not in command, he hasn't created that association yet. This is the unpretty side of dog training of like, in some cases, like, listen, like I don't like seeing him like, I want to get to, you know what I mean? But like you're seeing where it escalates and turns into like, he's biting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would rather spend 1 or 2 sessions just like, this has got to stop. You know what I mean? Like this behavior has got to stop and just be past it than have to worry too much about that continuously. But that in conjunction with, again, the management side of things is equally as important, right? So it's 50% we're fixing the problem of he's too impulsive over things that drop on the ground, right? And it's 50% we need to do a better job of just understanding what situations are appropriate to put him in and what situations are not appropriate to put
That's
him
what
in.
you mean by management.
Yes,
Okay.
that's management.
Okay.
Right? So management is let's just not put him in the situation to fail, right? Training is let's work on the problem. The other thing that I was going to say though, so try to avoid, I would actually stay with him while he's eating as opposed to going away from it because you don't want him to start to develop this sense of we give the food and then it's,
Oh, we back off.
yeah, and then we're backing off, right? Now, I'm not going to mess with him,
Yeah.
right? But I am going to stay near him, especially if he eats quickly. I just want to get him used to eating in the presence of us, right? Just to prevent future problems.
Yeah, yeah. I only recently started doing it.
Not stand.
No. Just near him. Yeah, just be in the area, right? Make sure he's used to you being around him while he's eating. So,
In fact, I didn't even think about this. One time he went for it before I put myself, but stupidly, before I said okay, and I just pulled his,
sure.
and I said no.
Yeah, listen.
Stopped. He did not go for me.
Listen,
which I thought
there's
was good.
there's a difference between, like I said, other people doing things with our dog and us doing things. Listen, if it's my dog, I better damn well know that if I need to grab my dog and pull them away from their food, that I can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to be doing it all the time, but yeah, like if I'm feeding my 4 dogs and, one of them, whatever, tries to go towards the other one while they're eating or goes to the food too fast or something, yeah, I'll tell them no and give them a little poke or something like that to get them to back off as well, right? And I need to know that I can do that, obviously. The difference is other people doing those things. Like if you try to do that to my Malinois, like he would do the same thing that Oda did, 100%. You know what I mean? Because he doesn't know you guys. He'd be like, who the fuck are you? You know, like, yeah. Exactly.
I think you grab the chocolate instead of Connie.
Yeah.
Oh no, but the
Sure.
problem is we weren't in the room.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I said, the big problem is not that what happened. The big problem is the things leading up to what happened, right? Because his response, though not appropriate, is not abnormal, right? And that's the important thing to realize. You know what I mean? So that's why I say, German Shepherds, they're like they're owners' dogs. That's how they act about stuff.
They're gonna listen to.
So yes. Yeah, so what's been new? What have you been working on?
So we're working on, doing the treats and
Yep.
trying to increase frequency, like, as we're seeing distractions.
Sure.
And we've had some success, but we've had some not good encounters also, and so I'm still just kind of struggling with, when he does react, kind of how to handle
Sure.
that without
So-
just kind of bolting.
Yeah. So when he does well versus when he doesn't do well, what's the difference you notice, if anything? Not in his behavior necessarily, but like the situation.
So where he really won't do well is dogs coming towards us.
I gotcha.
People, he usually can keep it together.
Yeah.
Like if they're, even if they're coming towards us, if they're running,
Yeah.
good. If they're, good.
Nice.
But like with dogs, we had like someone biking towards us, running with their dog.
Sure. Which is like a very hard
Yeah,
situation.
I'm just like braced myself.
Yeah.
Maybe he picked up on that, but
Yeah,
it
for
was-
sure.
So I feel like we haven't made a lot of progress in terms of like dog
Yeah.
reactivity. Which
Okay.
I kind of wish they'd done that way. 'Cause
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll try to set up some more situations. We'll take them inside here, work them in there a little bit.
Okay.
Obviously, we're going to continue keeping the reward frequency really high. We're going to try to add a little bit of correction back in here and there as well. Just kind of see what we get with stuff. We're just going to let him take some of this in, obviously. Don't worry too much about the rewards and stuff. I just want to let him.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to ask about too is if I should use a different leash on him, because I guess it's more the perception of the people and the dogs he's lunging at, because he is on a 6-foot leash, and so he's lunging, not trying to upset other people,
Yeah, well, when you say use a different leash, what do you mean?
Like a shorter one, or,
It'd make it worse.
okay.
Yeah, because you figure, right, so like reactivity is an issue of restraint, right? So the more you enclose that bubble and close that bubble and close that bubble, the more restrained the dog feels, the more intense their reactions typically will be. Listen, again, like I think we talked about last time, like if you lose control of him or something like that, you could shorten your leash up and just get him moving, obviously. But I would be focused more on creating distance than shortening my leash, right? So if you're concerned that he's lunging and he's getting too close to the other dog, that typically means you're probably a little too close in that situation. You could leave him there. I'm gonna have you come with me for a minute. Yeah, you can close it.
He's just kind of tugging. He's walking a little bit faster.
Yeah, but he's starting to push, right? Get down into that stuff, right? Because if he knows, I can even walk out of space. He knows he can from running, right? He just needs to know. So when he's clear with that, that's what's going to help him when that distraction really does. When it's game time, he really has to make a decision. He's got to roll.
We're just letting him hang out right now. There's no specific do or don't right now. I just want him to hold a long bed stay. Like I said, we're just kind of letting him decompress, just take in that he's here. It's not that big of a deal. And all of this, he just wants to play right now, you can tell, right? This is all playful body language.
It does depend on the dog.
For sure, yeah. And this is a hard one too, because he's really staring him down and everything, you could tell. Hi, Moosh.
That's reward when he looks at me now.
You could start adding rewards in when he looks at you. Yeah, I just want to see how well he's going to hold it without rewards. Nice. trying to keep it under control. And he's like, oh my God, this is really exciting. And he's like, all right, I'm keeping it under control. And it's like, oh, it's really exciting. So if you get any really difficult ones like that, you could add a reward in for that. Like right there, they were like really like kind of staring at each other, and like you thought about getting off, but then held himself back, obviously. If you want to add one in for those, that's fine, but we're just kind of slowing the frequency down here, and I'm just working my way closer and closer.
Is that a reward just when he pulls back, or does he have to look at me, or just whatever I think?
Yeah, whatever you determine is good at this point. Again, I think we talked a little bit last time, there's not really a wrong place necessarily, you know? Right now we're looking for whatever state of mind we really want, you could go for with a reward at this point, right? I'm not so concerned about the attention and looking and stuff like that in this drill that we're doing right now. Nice, this is very good.
What level have you been correcting on?
100. At this point, like if we're gonna use a correction, like we want it to be pretty motivating, obviously. That's not gonna ensure that it's not gonna amp him up, obviously. Like if he's too overstimulated, he's too overstimulated, obviously. But in these situations where we're keeping him a little bit more moderately aroused, right? It seems to be working pretty well to alter his behavior. And that's the fine balance with this, right? Because like obviously, like we saw, you know, the corrections in some cases are he's just too overstimulated and it just makes it worse, right? Or at least makes it worse in that moment. But you can't shy too far away from them, because you shy too far away from them and everything else starts just getting a little too sloppy. You know what I mean?
Yes. I know exactly what you mean.
So it's really just a balance. That's why we're starting off right now with something like this, where it's putting us in a position to kind of leverage both of them while he's not crazy aroused, you know, to help bring him down a couple of notches, which he's doing really well with. So. All right, got a dog over here. So let's go ahead and you can come to a stop. And as this dog is approaching, a lot of rewards, obviously.
Should I put him in a down?
No, that's right.
So should I put him in a sit, because he just kind of auto sits?
No, I'm just worried about him staying near you right now.
Good.
Perfect.
Good. Good. Cool. Good. You cool? Good. You cool?
And then any tension, we are still going to mark with no for.
Good. Cool. Good. There was a little tension at one.
A little bit at one point I probably would have corrected for, but that was still pretty good. So, all right, let's keep cruising. So right about here. Same deal, tension's all I care about.
Good. Good. Good.
Looks good.
Yeah, with that one I struggle, because I know in times when I've corrected him, it made it worse.
Obviously, we don't want to amp him up, obviously, right? We don't want to set him off or anything like that. But the key here really is if we could figure out, if we could get a couple of just like really well-placed ones like that, where we're not overdoing them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're not doing it when he's in this ridiculously adrenalized state of mind. Like right there, he still hadn't hit that point where he's like full on losing his mind or anything like that. I want to see if when he's in that state of arousal, if we can get ourselves just that little bit more leverage with things, you know? And listen, again, I'm not saying it's going to be perfect by any means. Maybe we find that we do correct there and it does amp them up a little bit and we say, all right, you know, maybe we pump the brakes on that as well. But we're kind of trying to figure out where is it, again, what's that balance of like reward to correction ratio that's going to work really well with him. But look good. Again, from a reward standpoint, your timing looks great with everything, right? You're doing a really good job of keeping him engaged with you, and we're still keeping him under threshold with everything, right? Like all things considered, that's not that bad.
Yeah.
So
He's honestly doing better than when I would walk him like in the neighborhood. I don't know if that's just we go out and
he's more comfortable in these environments, obviously. You know, like at home, he's going to be a little bit more aroused because of it, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that he's still not perfect here, obviously, there's still work to do. And I would say even this looks better than the last session that we did, I think,
yeah,
you know?
no, I
So let's go ahead and we'll keep cruising this way. Let's go ahead and fall off to the side and do it down.
Go here. Down. Good. Good.
Sure thing.
Good.
That's awesome.
Good.
You're awesome, Yakul. So one thing, like situation like that, right?
Yeah.
Down. You know, obviously pull them off to the side. You could still use the, again, this is the balance with things, right? We've got to make sure we still have a clear position, right? So right there, because obviously it was coming up quick and stuff, your brain kind of went to like, let's just like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, distract him.
Right? Just distract him more than reward him for correct behavior. You know what I mean? We got to make sure that we have a full position, right? And that he's totally clear and stable so that we could then reward for the correct positioning. Right? So a lot of this is just being in these situations more, right? And just working him through it, continuing to give him clear pictures and stuff. Good. 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 Down. Good. How's it going? Good. Sorry, we're using your dog as a distraction. Good. Come. Good in there.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, the dog was calm, like you said, but like, he still did very well with that, I mean, all things considered. And a couple things to just notice, just as far as when I was handling him, and again, it was one dog, one easier dog and stuff like that though, but really like focusing on what it is we're rewarding for, and then as we're getting that attention, kind of being a little bit more deliberate with the rewards and corrections as far as what we're shaping, right? So I was a little bit calmer about it, a little bit more loose about things. I was holding him to a little higher of a criteria while still keeping the reward frequency up, obviously, you know, and just engaging his brain a little bit more, right? So things like that are going to be helpful as opposed to, right, some of like what we saw in the tunnel, which is more of like the panic reward, like the panic down and reward, right? You just got to slow yourself down a little bit and give yourself the time to slow yourself down a little bit. Meaning, you said one of his biggest areas that he struggled with is with the people coming head on, obviously. Let's say there's a person like literally where that guy is over there, right? Like, which is pretty far, and they're coming this way. Like, stop now and get yourself ready, you know what I mean? And prepped up to keep him successful, as opposed to waiting to the point where it's like you're getting so close that now we need to frantically try to, again, get him into position or start rewarding or something while he's already getting overstimulated. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so get prepped as in like have him in it down? Or
Yeah,
like,
whatever it is that you're going to do, right? Because again, there's not really a wrong thing to do necessarily, but whether you're going to do a sit or a down or just have him stand there, whatever it may be, just get yourself prepared to start enforcing the thing that it is that you're going to be enforcing, right? More ahead of time, as opposed to waiting until it's starting to hit that edge where it's like too far, you know? And that might be the one thing that helps you a little bit more, because obviously in the neighborhood, it's harder to create distance than it is somewhere like this, where you got like all this wide open space. But the thing you can do is you can create the distance like that way. You know what I mean? Like, so like if this is the sidewalk, right? Instead of creating distance going off to the side, you're just creating distance by stopping earlier and getting him prepared for when that dog does ultimately pass by you. So that would be one thing that I would focus on, right? 2, I would try to work some of the downs with the hip swing, and you could kind of engage him a little bit more that way and get him into that kind of more relaxed positioning and state of mind. Thing number 3 would be, I do want you to start adding some corrections back into this, right? But I want you to be very, very deliberate of where you're giving the correction, right? So only when there's tension on the leash as far as your walking is concerned. If you're having him just stay in your space, obviously if there's tension on the leash, you would correct for that if you're passing another dog. With that down, you gotta make sure that he's all the way in that down position, right? And obviously we're not correcting when he's reacting or lunging or anything like that. If you've hit that point, it's too far, right? That's not gonna get you anywhere. But by giving that what we saw today, or what I saw today, is that by giving that correction before he full on escalated, he seemed to be much more responsive to it and fix his behavior after the fact, right? So less corrections, obviously, but more strategically placed.
Okay, still at the high.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if we're going to give a correction, we got to just give a correction. You know what I mean? Because I think at this point, if he's going to, you know, get a little snarky with the correction or anything like he did that one time, it's going to happen no matter what level it's at, kind of thing. Or if you're so low that you don't get that, then it was pointless to even give it, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're ever like really in a position where you're like, I'm nervous to do this, I don't want him to, you know, he seems a little too amped up or something like that, just don't, you know what I mean? Like, don't put yourself in a vulnerable position or anything. Or if you're that concerned, maybe the first time you try to start adding the corrections back in for those things, maybe you could pop his muzzle back on or something the first walk or whatever, you know, however is going to make you feel comfortable with it. But I want to see, making those couple adjustments, how he does with that.
Okay.
I think the down might be a good idea. I think the down he seemed very responsive to, as we were doing with like people passing by and stuff, where you could start implementing that and give the correction for not being in the down, in addition to the very heavy rewards, obviously. I think that might be the way to go. He seemed very responsive to that.
Okay. That helps me too because it's more of a set.
A little bit more of a visual.
Right.
Yeah,
If
big time.
these elbows are-
And give yourself, like I said, at this point, if you're walking through the neighborhood, no matter who the person is, who the dog is, whatever it may be, get yourself prepped and get him into that down like way, way, way ahead of time, right? That'll give you the time to give the correction for not getting into the down or getting the elbows up or whatever it is, well before he's starting to get overstimulated, right? And kind of set the tone of like, hey, we're about to pass a person, keep it under control, right?
So if he is kind of overstimulated and I do correct and he does kind of lose the positioning, do I just kind of get out of there or what do I do?
Yeah.
It might be hard to put him back in the down.
Sure. Again, if you feel like you've lost control over him, just live to fight another day, right? But try to not look at like worst case of what do I do if this happens, because if that happens, like you're not going to get anywhere. You know what I mean? But if you run into a situation like when I corrected him for the down in the tunnel or whatever, and he kind of had like a 2-second little spaz moment, and I just waited him out and then said down again after he chilled, and then he got right back into it, right? So almost expect when you give that correction, you're going to have a little, what the heck was that, right? And just give him a second, right? Then down. We're still doing down right now.
Yeah.
You know?
The muzzle might not be a bad idea because he does.
Yeah, because I think that's a lot of it more than anything is probably your confidence behind it, if he's going to do that or not. So yeah, if you're concerned about that, I would just use that the next couple of walks and just see what you get with it.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but let's work that. Do that for another like 2 weeks or so.
Okay.
Give me an update, and then we'll get you back in. We'll do some more stuff, and we'll see if we can continue finding different pictures to work on. I like that thing we did in the lobby with him today. I think he did really well with that.
Yeah.
So really kind of pushing the envelope with those types of things. You know, this looked even better than the last one that we did, obviously. And, you know, depending on the weather and stuff, maybe we go hang out outside of a pet store or something like that. You know what I mean? Like we'll figure something out as far as how to continue pushing the envelope with things.